hire at the Woodland Park range, and today we're going to cover all of the performance details of the Odin series rifle lights.
We actually haven't produced a video from the range showing you guys all of the key differences between the 3 Odin lights that we offer, and that includes the Odin Mini, the regular Odin, and now finally the LEP Odin Turbo. So we're gonna put each one of these on the AR, show you the performance at range, and show you all of the key differences, including size, lumens, distance, and all of that. So go ahead and strap in, guys, because this is going to be a really fun one. Now, the coolest part about the Odin series is that they all work with the same mounting systems. Now, keep in mind the full-size Odin and the Odin Turbo both come with the Picatinny rail mount, but the Odin Mini actually comes with M-LOK. So this is not an M-LOK rail, and to keep things as easy as possible for you guys, everybody has a Picatinny rail. So because of that, I have the Picatinny rail section on the top of this rail right here. And this is the Odin Turbo. Now, this is the largest light that we offer, but let me show you this. So all I'm going to do is unlock this section here, and I'm going to slide the Odin Turbo off of that mount. But I can take the full-size Odin and literally just slide it in like that, and then I have the smaller Odin right there. Now I can take this one off, and now I can go ahead and put on the Odin Mini as well, just like that. So it's really cool how you can literally just keep the same mount on the gun itself and just slide each light on as you want to use it. Another cool thing is they all have the same tail cap, which means that you can use the exact same lock-on remote switch with all of them as well. So there we go, there's the remote switch, slide it off, and now I'll just unlock this here, slide off the Odin Mini, and now I'll go ahead and put on the LEP Odin Turbo on the exact same system, lock that on, and boom, there it is right there. So it's the exact same remote switch and the exact same mount for all 3 of these. I think that's really cool, specifically if you're going to have maybe the regular Odin on your rifle for most of the time, and then you just want to throw on the LEP for fun. It literally takes like 5 seconds to do it. So now that you know all 3 of these lights can use the exact same Picatinny rail attachment and the exact same lock-on remote switch, let's talk about one of the key differences when these lights are on your rifle, and that is the length. Now, the best rule of thumb is to keep the front of the light just barely behind your muzzle brake or whatever you've got, so that way the light doesn't get super dirty when you're using it. So you can see here, I've got the front of the light basically right here at the front of the rail. That's exactly where you want it to be. Now, this Odin Turbo is 6.1 inches. So it's not the shortest thing in the world, but again, you're getting a 1,050 meter beam distance from it. So I think that is a perfectly fine compromise. So now let's toss the original Odin on that same adapter. So here we go, sliding it on, put that remote switch on, working, good to go. And you can see just how much smaller this is. This one actually is 5.37 inches compared to that 6.1 from the Odin Turbo. So it does honestly look substantially shorter. Now, if you wanted to, with this shorter light, you could actually move this Picatinny rail adapter a little bit closer to the front of the gun, but you don't have to. It still works completely fine in this position. But there you go, the full-size Odin right there on the exact same adapter. And last but not least, the super tiny Odin Mini. This thing is so awesome, guys. I love how small it is. If you want something more low profile, the Odin Mini is what you want. So I'm just gonna slide it again into that exact same mount. I'm gonna lock on that remote switch, working, good to go. And this one is 4.55 inches. So it is substantially smaller and definitely more lightweight compared to the full-size Odin and the Odin Turbo. All three of them can fit on your rifle just fine. It really just depends on what you want it to look like and the size that you're willing to go with.
So now that you guys have seen all three different size Odins on the firearm, let's go ahead and see what that actually looks like downrange. Now, the Odin Mini has 240 meters of beam distance, the standard Odin has 300 meters, and the Odin Turbo has 1,050 meters. So let's shut the lights off and take a look.
So now we are in the completely pitch black range. This is a 50-yard range, so we'll go ahead and shine the Odin Mini. And this has a 240 meter beam distance, so obviously we can shine it further than this range. But this should give you a good idea of what it looks like on a silhouette 50 yards away. Now let's go ahead and switch to the 300 meter beam distance Odin. And you can see there is a higher intensity at that target there, 50 yards down. And then we'll go ahead and flip over to the completely different Odin Turbo, and the intensity on that target down there is just absolutely ridiculous. You probably can barely even see the target anymore at this point. I mean, 50 yards for this turbo right here, this LEP is nothing, but the hot spot of this LEP is plenty large enough to fill up an entire silhouette. That was one thing I was worried about, is I was like, is that hot spot a little bit too small? But actually it's definitely not. Even if there was someone who was 7 feet tall all the way down there, you would be able to see their entire body. So I think the LEP actually is very practical when you're using it at those longer ranges. But again, we'll go ahead and flip back and forth between the three. So I'm going to go ahead and switch on the Odin Mini again. And this is perfectly acceptable at that 50 yards. We'll go ahead and flip again to the Odin. And that definitely has a higher intensity. You can definitely tell that this is a brighter flashlight than the Odin Mini. But again, the Odin Mini is a lot smaller light on your gun. So it's something to think about there. And then again, the just absolutely mind-blowing LEP. And this 50 yards is literally nothing for this light. But this should give you a good idea of what all three look like pitch black, shining it at a 50-yard silhouette. And now, just as a comparison, I've got the full-size Odin here on the right. I've got the LEP Odin Turbo here on the left. And you can just see how much more insane that intensity is right here at the back of the range compared to the Odin. So obviously they're just completely different style lights. If you want to get that spill, if you want to, continue having your peripheral vision, maybe it makes more sense to get a normal flashlight here like the Odin. But if you just want the longest distance you possibly can, maybe you're putting this on a bolt action rifle, something like that, then the LEP is how you want to go. But obviously just completely different looking beams right here. So I think it's worth it to get both of them depending on the situation that you're in. Now let's touch on run times, because they are drastically different because each one of these lights has totally different performance. So we'll go ahead and start with the smallest one, the Odin Mini. Now Now the Odin Mini goes up to 1,250 lumens, and that will actually last for 6 minutes before it starts dropping down. So for a regular standard LED flashlight, that's actually really good. And it actually is better than the full-size Odin, because the full-size Odin goes all the way to 2,000 lumens. So we're talking 750 more lumens with the Odin, but it only will last for 2 minutes on that turbo, and then it will go ahead and drop down from there. Now, the LEP is amazing. Considering that it doesn't use a standard LED, it doesn't get hot like a standard LED. This takes a very long time to get hot, so because of that, it's able to stay on turbo for a much longer amount of time. So at that 1,050 meter beam distance, it will actually last for 30 minutes before it starts dropping down. The beam just honestly doesn't really get hot. So I'm really impressed with that turbo runtime on the Odin Mini. The Odin makes sense to have a lower runtime because it's drastically brighter than the Odin Mini, and the Odin Turbo runtime is just absolutely incredible.
Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us here at Gun for Hire at the Woodland Park Range to take a look at the Odin series rifle lights.
Hopefully this comparison helped you guys make a decision on which one you want to go with. Honestly, they all have their place and their purpose. They definitely are drastically different in size. You've got the Odin Mini, the Odin, and then the big boy, the full-size LEP Odin Turbo. I love how they all use the same lock-on remote switch. They all can use the same mount, even though the Odin Mini does come with the M-LOK instead. It's still compatible with this Picatinny one right here, and they all have completely different performance like we showed you. So if you want to go with all three, I think that's completely justified, and you can swap them to different rifles if you have one of these mounts on them, and that's something that's really nice. So you don't have to constantly unscrew it from your rail and have to deal with all of that. Guys, go ahead and check these out at the link in the description below. We have all of these with the technical specs and the ability to make a purchase at our website, olightstore.com. And if you do want to go with one of these, you can use the discount code OLIGHT10 at checkout for an additional savings. Thank you guys so much for watching this video here at Gun for Hire, and we'll see you guys on the next video.